Hi, this week's First Chapter Friday is The Bletchley Riddle by Ruta, Sepetys and Steve Sheinkin. And when I heard that these two incredible authors were putting out a book together, I could not wait to read this book. So Steve Sheinkin typically writes nonfiction books for young adults, like he wrote Bomb and Fallout and The Most Dangerous Game, and we have a bunch of his books. Ruta Sepetys writes really high quality, well-researched historical fiction for young adults. For example, Salt to the Sea and I Must Betray You and some other books. So both of these authors are masters not only in their the level of research and quality of writing, but just in how engaging their books are. So to put the two of them together, and wow. This is a story about, it's a World War II historical fiction story, but I'm very tempted to put it in the mystery thriller section instead of historical fiction. I put it in historical fiction, but I'm tempted to move it because it's a story about code breaking and mysteries, and there's a lot of action and adventure. So it's a very exciting, engaging book, and I think that people who like a wide variety of different genres will really like this. So each of these chapters in this book are alternating perspective between two siblings, Jakob and Elizabeth, and so each chapter is a different perspective, and they're very, very short. So I'm going to read a few chapters. So the beginning of this book is a dedication for the secret keepers. Chapter 1, Jakob. First things first, a riddle. A traveler crosses a border into enemy territory. We're talking ages ago, ancient times, warring kingdoms, that sort of thing. The traveler is stopped by soldiers. It's their job to make sure no one carries any secret messages. They search the man, strip him bare, run fingers through his hair. The man is clean. He pulls on his clothes, goes on his way. But he does have a hidden message. Where? I'll give you a clue. No, it's not in his brain and not in his body, though that can work. It's a classic spy trick. That's the story. There's the story from the American Revolution where a British spy is caught sneaking through American lines. The Yanks suspect him of carrying secrets. They force him to drink some horrid potion, and the next thing you know, the poor chap's evacuating from both ends. Sure enough, out pops a silver bullet. This is no ordinary bullet. It's hollow and can be unscrewed. Inside is a tiny folded note. But our traveler carries no such spy gadget. Our man continues his journey. He walks for hours. Finally, deep in the woods at an agreed-upon spot, he meets a rebel leader, an ally of his own king. The traveler asks for a very sharp knife. He lifts the blade to his head and begins to shave off his hair. The secret message is written on his scalp. I'll never forget telling my sister this one. Lizzie was 6 or 7, and for weeks she ordered every adult she saw to bend down so she could search their head for hidden writing. She informed Mr. Davies, our neighbor across the hall, that he could never ever be a spy. Why not? He wished to know. She said, because you have no hair. Davies was terribly put out. Maybe he dreamed of becoming a spy. Maybe he was one. It's possible. A nice head of hair is not required these days. You see, people have come up with better ways to send secrets than writing them on each other's heads. Of course, the more cunningly the secrets are hidden, the harder people like me will work to find them. Chapter 2, Lizzie. Allow me to explain something. I'm lying, and surprisingly, I'm quite good at it. I'm just going to pause for a minute there and just point out what good hooks both of these writers have at the beginning of the book. I'm sure you've learned about hooks. Hooks are what draw you in to the story, and I love how good that both of these authors are at just sucking you right in. Okay, I'm going to go back to the story. I never imagined that at the age of 14 I'd excel at deception, but these days many things surpass even my robust imagination. England on the brink of German invasion for one thing, the sweaty man in front of me for another. Apologies, Mr. Fleetwood. I didn't realize I'd walked us so far today. That was one of the lies, of course. The walk was a death dash, a ploy to ensure he'd be positively exhausted when we boarded the ship and entered our cabin. Fleetwood, my chaperone for the voyage, heaves his bloated and blistered trotters into a pan of water. Remarkably small feet for such a wide frame. He mops a line of sweat from his brow, his face so flushed with pink it resembles a glazed holiday ham. "Oh, goodness, Gran made no mention of your foot ailment," I tell him. "I've no ailment, and you will report no such thing to your grandmother. I simply wasn't prepared for a march around the whole of Liverpool." He loosens his tie, settling in with a drink. "Perhaps you can understand my melancholy," I say, placing my suitcase where he'll be certain to trip over it. "Today is the last I'll see of England before we sail for America." "And whose fault is that?" he bellows, wagging a finger toward the ceiling of our cabin. "Hitler's fault," I nod dutifully. "This war is Hitler's fault." "My displacement, Hitler's fault. The gas mask I carry at all times," I raise my voice for full effect, "Hitler's fault." That's the reply he wants. Please note that I do not include the words "I think," because I do not think, I know. Another benefit of the sage age of 14. There are many things you just know, like the terrible truth that many British men who leave for the war will die in the war, or the fact that Mr. Fleetwood enjoys one too many sips of old Shenley. When I share things like that, people often say, "My, aren't you precocious, Elizabeth?" But let's be honest, shall we? When adults tell a child or a teenager that they're precocious, what they're really saying is, "Please don't say that out loud." But I say most things aloud. I prefer being straightforward. My older brother, Jacob, used to be straightforward. Before Willa disappeared, that is. Willa is our mother. Killed in a bomb blast, they told us. A falsity I refuse to accept. I no longer refer to her as mother because she's not currently here to mother me, so it's easier and hurts less to call her by her first name. Precocious? Probably. Willa is American, from a posh place called Cleveland. Some say that explains why I'm so straightforward, because I'm half American. They say the word American as if it's scandalous. I love that. Willa loved it too. Of course, someday I'll make it to America and meet genuinely scandalous girls. I imagine Cleveland to be a pond well stocked, but I've never been to America. As I grew up, Gran always came to London because Willa was constantly working, and now Gran thinks I'm rushing to join her in Cleveland. So does her estate steward, the yeasty-footed Mr. Fleetwood. But I'm not. Of course I'm not. Willa is the only parent Jacob and I have left. I make a pledge to uncover the truth about her disappearance. I told my brother as much in my correspondence, but Jacob hasn't responded to any of the letters that I've sent to the curious address he provided. I've heard nothing from him for over 3 months. First, Willa disappears, and now my brother. I refuse to leave England until I determine their whereabouts. "Mr. Fleetwood, would you like to join me for a stroll on deck before we depart?" "No, no," he replies. "I've just poured a drink." "Yes, probably best to rest your legs. It's a small ship, but so lovely of Gran to book such a large suite, don't you think?" I continue to chatter, as I've learned it tires him. "Will you be able to endure this discomfort? I hesitate to leave you." I place a hand on my chest, even for a moment. "I'm fine," he insists. His footbath is now pinked by the weep of his blisters. Perfect. "All right. I'd like to wave my hanky as we set sail. A transatlantic voyage to escape German invasion. It's all so exciting," I gush. "I'll return and unpack my suitcase as soon as we depart." "Very good, Elizabeth." I exit the cabin, turn the corner in the hallway, pull a deep breath, and then I run. As fast as I possibly can, dodging a luggage steward, vaulting over suitcases, and picking up speed midair. I dash down one staircase, then another, taking the final 5 steps in a single airborne leap. I land rump first on what appears to be a gilded box, owned by a pinch-faced peacock of a woman. "My hat!" she exclaims. I do apologize, I say, removing my backside from the squash of her box, "but I'm in a terrible hurry," and then I'm off again. "Young lady," bellows the peacock, "young lady, what on earth are you doing?" Her voice fades as I see my target exit. What am I doing? I'm lying and escaping. And honestly, I do feel a bit bad about it. It was much too easy. Poor Feetwood, as my brother calls him. Clearly, he has no experience with teenagers. Clearly, he has no idea what I'm about to accomplish. Clearly, he's a very poor chaperone, because the steamship will sail for America, but I'll be racing back to London when it does. Chapter 3. Jakob. I stumble down the train station stairs and sprint along the platform, chasing the moving cars like the world's scrawniest adventure hero. Lunging for a door, I leap on board, trip, and tumble into the lap of a seated gentleman. "Lovely afternoon," I say. The man offers an irritated humph and returns to his newspaper. I leave the gent to his reading and start down the corridor in search of a seat. I'm sweating, I'm panting, and I'm wondering what my sister has done this time. Here's what I do know. Lizzie is supposed to be on her way to America. For some reason, she didn't go. Instead, she showed up at the London address I use for mail, asking for me. And so I'm to go fetch her. Those were the colonel's exact words when I was called to his office this morning. "Fetch, sir?" I asked. He clearly does not know my sister. "Fetch her, yes," the colonel snapped. "Which part of that order is unclear? And for heaven's sake, keep her quiet until you get back." "I'll try." "What have you told her about your work here?" "Nothing, sir," I said, my voice coming out rather higher pitched than I'd like. "I gave her the address we were told to use, the false one in London. She's written me a few times, but I've been so busy, and if I'm honest, we haven't been close in a long—" He's already returned to the paperwork on his desk. Conversation over. So I ran to the train station, and now I'm on my way to fetch Lizzie. What'll I say to her? How can I possibly prepare her for the strange place I'm going to take her to? I can't. I know that, unless I want to be shot for treason. From London's Euston Station, I take a taxi to the Foreign Office, a block-long building of white stone. The driver agrees to wait. I run up the stairs and into the soaring entryway. I'm directed up to an office on the third floor. The door of the room is open. And there she is. Those flashing eyes, the wiry frame and electrified brown hair. What is she now, 14? Also, who is that poor man in the brown suit? Are you sufficiently intrigued? If so, check out the Bletchley Riddle in our school library.